Mind if I say something?
I don't mind at all.
Test 1, 2. Is this on?
Hello. Whoa, that's really hot.
Testing 1, 2. Is this on? You guys hear this? All right. I'd like to thank all 10 of you for coming to my seminar. I'm Steve Ritchie, and I make pinball machines, and Mitch here is going to interview me, which made it really simple. I didn't have to come up with a speech or anything. I'm lazy inherently. No, I'm not.
Well, I was hoping you had a speech. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
No speech.
So anyways, welcome to the first panel of the Southern Fried Gaming Expo 2018. How's everybody doing tonight? So, but I guess housekeeping stuff, a couple things. What we'll do, like always, we'll probably open up the last 15 minutes for questions from the audience, so think of some good questions. Immediately after the panel here, we'll do a signing set. Steve,
yep.
I'll be there too, but
bring your
if
stuff.
You want my autograph, you can get it, but no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, we'll do Steve will do a signing session, so just come on out there as well. And that's about it. So I don't even need to introduce this guy because he introduced himself. I am super no, that's awesome. I'm super honored to be here today with the great Steve Ritchie, of course. So anyway, so there are a lot of questions I have for you. I really, I've always, on a personal note, I've always respected your work. I've always had a great interest in it.
And, suck up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding.
That's what it says right here. Suck up. No, exactly.
You turn this way a little bit, Mitch.
Of course.
I need to read your lips.
So anyways, no, that's exactly what it said on there. So anyways, just on a personal note, like I had told you before the thing, I recently got a Star Trek Next Generation, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely think it's a masterpiece. So I used to be a big fan of the show, and I think you integrated it perfectly. I feel like it's like you're in an episode of the show, basically. So in my opinion, as far as stuff that I've played, it's probably one of the best theme integrations of like a license that I've ever seen. So anyways, there's the suck up portion of it. So anyways, one of the things we're going to talk about today is
let's talk about Next Generation.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to talk about
a short story.
Please.
Okay, we went to Paramount Studios, and I guess it was like Roger Sharp, myself, Dwight Sullivan, the programmer, and Greg Furris, and we met with these three ladies, and they said, you can't fire photon torpedoes or phasers in your game. And I go, then I'm not going to make the game. I can't. No one will want that. No one. You can't do that. Anyway, we ended up walking out of the meeting, and Patrick Stewart was sitting right behind me, and I could hear his pipes. He had such a good voice, but we weren't allowed to talk to anybody unless they talked to us. So we ended up going back, and Roger called up and he said, so how can we salvage this, to the vice president of licensing? And he goes, come back out. I got a new lady here. Anyway, she was great. Her name was Susie Dominic, and she said, do what you have to do. She trusted us because we are all Trekkies. We knew all the lore. If there's something I didn't know, Dwight knew, and, it's all about the Prime Directive.
What
it is.
Was it true on that? I read somewhere online, and of course it's true, but no, I'm just kidding. But was that because I'd read somewhere that there was difficulty, I guess, acquiring the license for it because they didn't want violence or
Yeah, that was the three licensing ladies who were all fighting each other and they were gone the next time we went. There was just one lady, and she was great.
Right, but then I also read that if it wasn't going to be Star Trek: The Next Generation, it was slated to be Under Siege. Is that right?
No, it was going to be Space Pirates from Blank Hell.
Really?
That's not true. We thought about it, but we weren't going to do it. Yeah, it was going to become Under Siege with a couple of cannons.
I've tried to. Did you already have that was up, or was it no? It wasn't even nothing.
No.
I was going to say I would love to see that drawn up. I can't even imagine and of course if history were different and that's what would have happened. we'd be like, I can't imagine a Star Trek: The Next Generation pinball. So, so super, and the theme doesn't make the pinball really, anyways, in my opinion.
The actors were brilliant, except for Jonathan Frakes. He didn't take it seriously. That's why you hear very little speech from him in the game. The rest of them took it very seriously. Brent Spiner, especially. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was great, and Patrick Stewart, who corrected we had pages and pages of lines, and he would end up saying something else exactly like he would say it. And then I made a mistake. Totally, I wrote down Space, the Final Frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Anyway, I made some mistake in there, and he stops in the middle of the speech on the recording, and he goes, "Oh, a grave error." Oh my God. So he said it right. He also said a lot of funny stuff too. All of them did. And John Delancey was great. He was a character.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because I had this like silly picture of Worf on my phone that I always texted all my friends random, like just because of the weirdest thing. And my son always looks at my phone, and he's like, "Who's that guy?" And I'm like, "That's Worf." So yeah, as soon as we brought it home, he's like, "Look, it's Worf. What are you doing on there?" So I thought that was kind of cool. But
Captain, I am not a merry man. What's your next question, sir?
Are you ready for the next question?
I am.
Okay.
I don't mean to cut you off.
No, please. I said, if you
talk about old stuff,
I love it.
It's okay though. We can talk about all the history you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so actually, the history section is the next section. So that's what I was going to ask about. But I do have a lot of unless you want to skip that and go.
No, do it.
Okay. I was going to say I got a lot of questions for you. So just the history of Steve Ritchie. One of the things that definitely, because obviously, your brother Mark was also a renowned designer as well, and I also own a couple of his machines. But what was your before you ever even got your first job in the industry? What was growing up like? Did you have a lot of creativity in your family, or did you have a lot of competitiveness?
Music, and my mom was she had a lot of talents, no doubt. She still does.
Yeah.
And when I was in 8th grade, they said, all the teachers got together and said, I'm going to be a mad scientist in a toy factory when I grow up. And that's what it is.
That's exactly, yeah.
They knew. And I don't know, I played pinball. They would bowl in this bowling alley, and I played pinball probably from, I don't know. I started, in the 50s, you could leave an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old at a pinball machine. It's no problem.
Right.
They don't have any John Trudeaus around.
Oh,
anyway. He wrecked it for us so bad. It was we were so ashamed of that. I shouldn't be talking about it, but I just want to say that I knew him for years, and I'm personally hurt. I just am. Anyway, okay, so what were we talking about? I'm 68. Give me a break. No.
Yeah. So
talking about what?
We're talking about just when you're growing up, the kind of household that you'd grown up.
Oh yeah.
Well, again, like I said, I feel like it's striking that both of you became pinball designers.
Yeah, we built chariots. It's I grew up in California, and it's the ocean was 2 miles away, and the mountains started right across the street. It's
wow.
And I mean, 8,500 feet or so in the coastal range, and so we grew up, running around in the mountains, riding dirt bikes and stuff like that. But we built a lot of stuff. It's just coasters. One day I found a big tarp. First one I ever saw that was plastic. And I made a parachute out of it and used twine and stuck it behind the seat of my bicycle. And we went up to the top of this hill.
Yeah.
And first I had to try it. I was dopey. Okay. It lifted the whole back tire when it opened up, but it did slow me down. It was pretty cool. And pretty soon we all had them. Anyway, it was a lot of work to get the bike back up the hill, though.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, on just a side subject, it seems like you've always been interested in just kind of. I guess we can talk about that later as far as pinballs go as well. But there's a lot of creativity, a lot of firsts that you've done in pinball as well. It seems like I guess you have a really inventive mind when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, did that start at childhood as well, with the bicycle experiment?
Yep, it did. And for my brother too.
Oh yeah.
Just I don't know. We invented stuff. Excuse me. I gotta blow my nose. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
This place is. Are allergies a big deal here?
They are.
So. Yeah. They are in Chicagoland also.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's better.
Absolutely. Trust me, I've been suffering from them myself. But so it seems like you've always been into like gaming in some point or at some point or another. I know there was obviously playing pinball, vids. You've been really interested and involved in vids as well. But like PC gaming and all that stuff, was that kind of a part of your childhood as well? Like
yeah, I love video games. I mean, Atari was a video game company, and that's where I started working. And they started a pinball division, but we played video games every day, pretty much. It started with when I got there. I think it was employee number 50, and we played Pong in a barrel. You ever seen that thing?
I've seen pictures.
Dentist's offices.
Well, that's awesome. Actually, that was a perfect transition into my next question. So, how did that come about with Atari? Like, how did your involvement with Atari come about?
I walked into their shop. It was in Los Gatos, California. Actually, it was about all these beautiful young ladies running around. It was an incredible place, being a young man myself. Okay, anyway, that wasn't the only attraction. I wanted to be, I wanted to do something involved in the business. I was in the Coast Guard, and I got a lot of electronic schooling, so I just thought, I'm going to go there and check it out. And it worked out. I ended up building this big orange, universal test fixture for their old games, and like a burn-in oven, something really boring but high current, asbestos wire even, yuck. Anyway, so they asked me if I wanted to be in the pinball division, and I said, wow, sure, I didn't know you guys were going to do this. But I think they're, the guys that ran it, Nolan Bushnell and a few other guys there, some artists and vice presidents, I think I never saw them, okay, but I think they sat in a room and I think they went, yeah, man, let's put the display down here where nobody can see it except who's playing. Just bad things like that. And rotary solenoids, it's like, I'm not saying I knew everything, but if you're going to make a pinball machine, why not, don't make everything unique. Don't reinvent the wheel because the wheel broke, so use linear flippers. Actually, I'm the guy that talked them into it on Superman, just because, they were a joke. We weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah. So how long were you with Atari before Williams?
I was with them for 4 years, and I got an offer from a real pinball company, Williams Electronics in Chicago.
So that actually, a question about that as well. What did you think of Williams before you worked for them?
I thought it was Wonderland when I walked in because...
Really?
Yeah, because you could tell they could build everything, and they had a real pinball history and plenty of people who knew so many things that I did not know. And, I got a great education from guys like Steve Kordek and, a lot of older guys like I am now. But that's how it's done. It's passed on. We're doing that now with young people at Stern, and it's like, it's fine with me. I don't care. I'll share whatever I have with them. But come up the side of my head if you want to beat my game. I like the competition too. It's not harsh. But it's a good thing for everybody. It's a good thing for all teams to be in competition, but also have the same goal, which is making and selling pinball machines. If we're not selling pinball machines, we're not making money. And I have seen 3 companies go now. Stern was one of them, just about, so close to going under. But if we don't make money, pinball doesn't exist, and that's about it.
So on a side note, with that comment, I'm just curious, like, has your perception of like what pinball is to you? I mean, I suppose there's probably like maybe 2 answers to this, but do you look at pinball, like, how did you perceive like pinball back in the day, and how do you perceive it now?
I looked at it like a game I played out on the floor. I looked at it and I thought, I don't know. I don't like to shoot at posts, and I want to make shots. I want to go,
So from a player's
and I want it to
perspective,
feed to another shot, things like that. I want some flow. I want a pattern, or multiple patterns that can be played several ways, and it's, that's satisfying to me. And really, it's like making a good pool shot. You have that same satisfaction of putting a ball in a hole or making it go around the orbit. I do love that, and it's like, I don't know. I guess that's what I brought to it. Kind of like not shoot these 3 targets around a jet over here, and just like a scheme, a plan.
Well, yeah, because especially with high speed, I mean, you really see that in high speed, obviously.
Yeah, well, it was like we had Larry DeMar and I fought like cats and dogs. We haven't done a game since, but he is a good friend, and we decided that we would never work together. But I'll tell you what, we argued like hell, but the game always won, which was very cool. It was pretty breakthrough.
So you had said earlier.
Wait, what was breakthrough about high speed? If you were an operator and you had a game in the arcade before high speed and it was giving away too many replays because all these good players were coming in, you had to go in, open up the box, and move these pins around to try and get it to adjust or talk to the solid state. But it was a physical thing, and high speed adjusted itself automatically, and that's one of the reasons why it sold so well and made good money. Plus, it was really the first integrated pinball machine where the music kind of worked with the voices and the cops. We did what we could, and high speed could also report to the operator what was broken, and it was kind of, there were some mistakes in there because, we're also showing the players that the game is broken, so they're not going to play it. Anyway, people figured out that a little dot behind the number would mean something is not working right. But it would eliminate targets and things you would normally have to complete. And now, it just made the game up and available to make money. We have 2 rules. There's just this. It has to be fun, and it has to work. That's it. Mm-hmm. Pretty simple.
Yes, that's definitely interesting. So one of the things that you had mentioned a second ago, to kind of zigzag back, you and the other designers always had friendly competitions. Like, did you always just like go out and play each other's games and just like criticize? Like, how did that work? What was the dynamic between your teams?
Okay, here's one dynamic. I would play Pat Waller's game, and I would say, "Wow, Pat, nice game." He would play mine and say nothing. Nothing. Whatever. Yes, there was competition, but almost everybody else was more friendly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I read. There was an article that I'd read something about Claude Fernandez as well. That
Claude Fernandez, yeah, he was kind of a thief. While I was making Black Knight, he took his drawing, he copied my drawing, the whole left side of the game, and went to Bally and made Flash Gordon.
Because before I had read that, I'd owned a Flash Gordon as well, and I was like, this seems so much like Black Knight, obviously.
He also stole a combination of high speed and Flash for Secret Agent. Wasn't that the name of it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He just had no scruples, but the president of Williams nearly strangled him.
Was that was that something that you saw often back then, or was that kind of like an isolated?
Totally.
Like how so? Like what else did you like? What other kind of scandalous happenings?
Williams sued Data East at the time, still Gary Stern, my boss, for what we called lethal weaponator, where we took Terminator and flipped the playfield like this. We sued him and we won.
Oh, interesting. So
Williams won. I should say that. I didn't get anything.
So I guess just moving forward as well, I know No Fear was your last game with Williams. Is that correct?
Yes. It's because, well, for one thing, Neil Nicastro wanted to get out of pinball very badly because there were slot machines, and he was just, slot machines cost so much money. They can get $8,000 to $10,000 for each machine. They're so much easier to build than pinball machines. There's also the, revenue sharing thing where you get the machine and we get half of what it takes. So he had no more interest in pinball. He really didn't. I kind of, but he let my contract expire too because he wasn't paying attention. So I started looking for work out in California to go back. So I visited Atari and talked to a few guys there that were still there, and I knew them. And I lined up another job. And I get back, and the president, Ken Fidelson, at that time said, "We know you're at Atari because we bought them last week." Oh, great. Well, Ken, can I go back there, and continue my work? And he goes, "Sure." So I kind of feel like I abandoned my friends at Williams, but on the other hand, it was kind of hopeless, And their solution was Pinball 2000, but it ended up costing so much more than regular pinball, and I don't know, it didn't really, and pinball was not at its peak, that's for sure, not that, isn't it? Pinball's always done this, always.
Yeah.
Right now, at Stern, we're here. We're just rocking. I mean, the whole factory's booming. There's all kinds of new people who are screwing up putting parts on games because they don't know how. You got to track them down. No, I'm always nice about it. It's not my responsibility, but, I try to take care of things when I see them going bad, no matter where they are in the company. What else could I say? Why don't you ask another question?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So that's actually interesting. I'm going to, another side topic here, just on like the ebbs and flow of pinball as well. I think in that same article that I was talking about Claude Fernandez about, I think that was like, I think it said it was like 2001 or maybe in 2001, and you were like, pinball is not coming back to where it was. And I understand why. I do understand why.
It was dead for me. Yeah. It was totally dead for me. There was no way I was going to, do that again until it, rose, because
totally
making video games as a producer was like, it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, we made California Speed, this driving game with blue seats with a really bad handling model because our programmer was a dope. That's what happened. So, but still, it made a lot of money. Good. Father, daughter, son, mother, family driving game. Just cool and fun, and it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this. I made another driving game after that called Mean Streak, and it was a driving shooting game. And it was pretty cool, but they pulled the plug on Atari the same time as Williams, 4 years after I left.
Were there any prototypes ever built?
Yeah, there were prototypes built.
Are they still out there somewhere?
I don't know. Probably somebody has one in their garage.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not in your garage, is it? That would be awesome.
No, it's not in my garage.
Oh, okay. Speaking of your garage, what you said you have about room for one. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place here, but you said you have about one.
In Illinois, we have basements.
Yep. And yes,
yeah,
trust me.
I only have room for one, and right now there's like a Star Trek LE that's, it belongs to me, and I'm going to move it into my house because I do love that game. I don't know. I understand it, I guess, because I played it more than other games that I've made. Sometimes, when I'm working with programmers, I do not tell Lyman Sheets what to do, but we do, collaborate on some stuff. As far as the higher end rules, I don't even get there. I just can't get there, so I never could either. So I let him take care of that, and he does a great job of balancing it, so there's trust between us. But still, sometimes I say, hey, I need an extra ball, and so does the bad players out there. Right about here, extra ball, we need it. Or I will say, can I win an extra ball in my own game, please? And they'll go, yeah, put it in, a month later. Anyway, a lot of the rules, collaborating. I'm involved in it on a, sometimes we come up with just magic stuff together. Other times, those guys know a lot better than I do how to balance the rules on a pinball machine and to make them fun. But, I'm a big, I love effects, and I love musical things and breaks and drama. I'm a showman. It's like, That's it. So I make sure that, the game has big impact in as many ways as possible. Yeah,
well, speaking of that as well, I know on Black Knight 2000, and was it, you did the music on, or you were involved with the music on Black Knight 2000?
I wrote the tunes, but Brian Schmidt added the bass line, which is awesome, and then Dan Forden also made some great, lead lines in the thing. I wrote just the main chords and the parts,
So are you a musician as well? Like, do you consider yourself a musician as well?
Yes. I have a black Les Paul Custom. I bought it like in '73, played in a bunch of bands, tons of bands in California.
Oh, that's awesome.
When I could hear. It had nothing to do with my hearing problem today either. It's totally a lie. 3 Marshall stacks. I won't do it anymore.
So, one of the things you just said too, like going back to, I guess the team, when you're the designer of a game, like how does that work? How much do you have? How much are you involved in each station? I mean, like each. Does that make sense? Me saying station, I can't articulate.
I'm the king. I can do whatever I want.
Okay.
No, it doesn't work like that. We have fun. We try to keep things. The Steve Ritchie game is not really a Steve Ritchie game. Okay, so I might have how can I say it? Lots of people contribute to them. Lots of them, heavily. I do the play field, and we get together for Magic. It's definitely a team effort, and has been since about High Speed. That's about it. Before that, it was they just took my game and gave it to a programmer, and like Flash. Flash doesn't have very complex rules. In fact, they're pretty similar to about 1 million other games, but it worked out.
Yeah.
Lots of contributors, and I'm really glad that I can work with. We're all getting older. It's like, but Kevin O'Connor is creating the art for my next game, and it's just magic. It's so cool. He's a great artist.
Interesting. So, how did you get involved with, like, I know you were the voice in Black Knight and among other things, and as well as what blew my mind, honestly, I didn't know this until like probably about 4 or 5 months ago, that you were the voice of Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat, which is amazing, because I was a huge Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Ed Boon created that, and he's like, we were working on, actually his first game at Williams was F-14 Tomcat, and he was a young guy, and he really sharp and funny, man. He just used to crack me up. Anyway, we had a lot of fun, and he asked me to do it, so I did.
Well, that's awesome. So how did you get involved?
Wait, are you going to ask me to say it? Come on.
Yeah, please.
Fatality. It's kind of hard to do without that, thing. It's like.
That's excellent.
Wait, I need another line. Fatality is not that good.
Finish him.
What is it?
Finish him.
Finish him.
Good call. Finish him.
Oh, that's awesome. Made my day. So
I don't remember any of it. That was so long ago.
I remember. I was such a big fan back in the day of, especially like Mortal Kombat. Like when I was a kid, I was really, really into vids as well, and that was just my stuff. I had like just the magazines, like Ed Boon, John Tobias, like Dan Forden was involved in that as well. Like I knew all the names when I was a kid and stuff like that.
That's
I thought
cool.
that was so cool. So I really got into pinball. It was cool to see some of these guys involved with the pinballs as well. I'm like, oh my gosh! Like in I was going to say Bride of Pinball with the music in that. I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like, the first time I ever played it, I was like, this sounds like Mortal Kombat. And, of course.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but, so, actually going back to, I'm sorry I'm skipping around a little bit here, but going back to one of the questions, like, about the ebb and flow of pinball, so we're definitely on like a plateau right now, and where does it compare to when, first of all, what was the height at Williams? Like, what was the height of pinball? Like, at what point in your career with Williams were you like, nothing ever got, to that height before? Does that make sense?
Yeah. For us, it was about, I guess, like 1991, 92 in that era. That was the biggest. But there was, we did great in the late 70s and early 80s until about 82, and then video games arcade operators stopped buying pinball machines because they made so much money with the video games that, they kind of went downhill for a while. In fact, there was no lights on at all in the engineering, or not engineering, the production zone. When I went back for high speed, they were working on Space Mission. No. Space Shuttle, yes. Anyway, they hadn't made it yet. It did pretty well, and then we made high speed, and the business rocked again. I'm not patting myself on the back, it's just what happened.
So how do you compare now to then? I know there are a lot of different factors that aren't the same now, like especially, what's cool about in Atlanta and in our community is that as far as pinball goes, like there are a couple places that have popped up recently with people from the community, like Portal Pinball, and we have one of our own as an operates a lot of really nice machines out of a place called My Parents' Basement. So it seems like it's kind of making a resurgence in Atlanta as well. But it's operators aren't, technology with consoles is especially reached a certain level with vids, with vids at least, where you can kind of, one of the things that used to draw me to arcades a lot back in the day were like graphics and like new technology and stuff like that, but you can get a lot of those things on home consoles, so I understand that there aren't as many operators around nowadays, and but there has been a resurgence where people have been like seeking out places to play pinball and places to play arcades recently, definitely within the last at least 5 years. But so there are definitely different factors. Like, how would you compare now to then, like at the height of Williams?
Now it's like, look at the age group of the people in here. We're looking at 40s, 50s, I think, maybe, not predominantly, maybe, but 40s, 50s. But now we have these new, younger people, 25 to 35. They're very interested in pinball and anything retro, pretty much.
My son is too. He loves pinball.
Right. So there's a lot of these people. They play a machine and then they go looking to buy one, and they buy one, and then they get hooked and keep buying them. In fact, once this guy, actually it was his wife, she said, "We have so many pinball machines that we don't have room anywhere in the house," and he wanted to get rid of the couch and put 3 more where it was. But that's not the punchline. The punchline is I said, "You guys got a master bedroom, right?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "Have you thought about bunk beds?" People go crazy with it. I've been to some people's houses. Oh man, one crazy man from Arizona, his name is Dan Frank. I went to his house and he had a room, actually a bunch of rooms. The door would not open more than a foot or two because it had, cabinets and back boxes that had to be taken out in a certain order even to get in the room. It's like everywhere in his house, everywhere outside. Nice climate in Phoenix. It was dry, so you could actually pretty much leave him outside and put a tarp over him. Anyway, that's a sickness.
It is. So that's so anyway, like I said, I've been kind of zigzagging around a lot, but so as far as today, I know today's market is more like probably like home buyers. I mean, with Stern, you have like the pro models that, or one of the uses for them is for operators and stuff like that. But it seems like more like home-based users probably, like number-wise, there's probably a big difference between now and then as well.
Yeah, we don't really know. We can't tell. I have an idea though. It's like stick a red card in the cabinet and tell us, first of all, did it work out of the box? I do want to say this. I'm not making excuses for Stern or any other company, but I think I only bought 2 pinball machines ever where everything worked out of the box. And I got really lucky with an AC/DC, in Germany, and they wanted to bust me. They wanted it to be broken, but it wasn't broken. They opened it up and they tried to break it, but it didn't break. anyway, that was lucky. Something's always a little off on every pinball machine. It's like maybe it's something that somebody didn't attend to at the game, but usually it's nothing too big. And when it is, you can always call Stern Service and we will take care of you. I just want you to know that. You guys already know it. We have the best service in the business. And that's how it is.
So, going back to, I guess, the progression of your career, I know after Williams pretty much, closed the doors. I know there was I wrote down an 8-year gap, but that can't be right. Like there was a little bit of a gap between designing machines, essentially. What happened what was going on during that time?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay. I had a contract with them, so they had to continue paying me even now. So I went and I made a big slot machine. It was called the Vault. And it was very cool.
I bet it was.
Big gears, and it rotated it was like a bank vault. And there was a gate that rolled up like this, and then a day gate, they call it at a bank, that rolled into it like that. And behind that, a big old classical black safe with gold filigree around the outside and a big hand wheel. So it had like 10 motors in it. And, the thing was, the game was about get symbols and see if you can get the first one, and then you can't stop there and reset. You got to try and, get the guy to go to the next step until he's not finished playing. Anyway, you open up the second gate, and you open up the third, the wheel spins, and there's a video screen inside, and you see what you want.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. And IGT stole that from me and called it Fort Knox.
Interesting. So
I brought it there. And they made a video game out of it.
So even in the time when you were not, when Williams or Stern, when you weren't, Williams or Stern wasn't your boss, Williams was still paying you. You were still designing. That's what you were doing in that time.
I was on my own. I worked with Eugene Jarvis and his people, and we made a program for it.
That's awesome.
It was cool. And after that, I started talking to Gary Stern. And so I was contracting with him. It was pretty nice, too. For like 7 years, I would fly out to Chicago for about 4 to 6 weeks. But then I could go home to California and stay there for a month and work on my game there. It was nice because I got to be involved in pinball, but also live in California, which is now a pretty terrible place in many ways. It's gone downhill badly, especially in San Francisco and Los Angeles. I didn't know this until the other day, but 33% of all food stamps in the United States are burned off at California. It's incredible, and I don't want to be political, but I just think people had good sense about how they run their government. I think the senators just want to enrich themselves. That's what I think. And they're crooked. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, so with Stern, you said there was a point when Stern was really close to closing its doors. Was that
That's when he fired me in 2008. He got rid of everybody.
Yeah,
except for John Borg.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't really. So that was just kind of a cost-cutting measure because things were really tight.
They weren't selling anything.
Yeah.
The games were Gary. Never mind. I'm not going to go into it. It's company business, but let's just say that Stern was failing and got very close to complete shutdown.
Sure. So
we got an investor who came along. And he's a great guy and a good friend because he's a listener. He knows much more than I do about business. I know nothing about business. I'm Gyro Gearloose. Okay, he actually saved Harley Davidson. They were going to die, and he turned everything around there, and they became stronger than they had ever been. So, what did you want to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, was Stern then, before that, and Stern now, were they different companies? Like, I was going to ask you specifically, like,
No,
working.
always Gary Stern, but, you know.
I mean, different as in, like, what my question was going to lead up to was how was working at Stern different than working at Williams? Like, what were, you know, some major differences between the two that you had noticed? And then it kind of evolved into, okay, was there a difference between the now Stern and the previous Stern?
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, the new Stern is like very well organized, and we've got a lot of different products and more coming, and it's we have growth in terms of people and the space. The factory's huge. I bet we'll be grown out of it though in a couple more years. It's just we've already run out of space for engineers, but
They should move to Atlanta.
I think we should move to Sonora, California, in the mountains.
So as far as Stern and Williams, like, what are some of the key differences? Like, what are, like, you know, I mean, do you have more or less freedom since, like, or is that even an issue?
Freedom at Williams.
Yeah.
You know, they just said, make the game you want to make. You know, I mean, if things got really bad with some people, you know, like John Papaduke, you know, who did, you know, they would see that. They would just see things are not going right there. But if things are going smooth, they stayed out of our way just totally. They made suggestions, like Mike Stroll. This was a great one. We made Firepower. I wanted drop targets on the thing so bad, but Mike Stroll said, our drop targets suck. They're going to be broken. We'll sell a lot more games if you just use stand-up targets. And they were garbage. They had horseshoe connectors on the back. Anyway, but that's like, you know, he didn't interfere any more than that with anything else. Same with Ken Fidesnik. Gary's a meddler. I have to fight him off. But he's better about it now, because, you know, it's like his father used to do that. His father used to make Harry Williams change one post just to say, I did that. Anyway, it's Gary's not so active in that part of it anymore. And I think, you know, when I need a solution, I will talk to him, but I also talk to Dave Peterson, because he has a global view like I do. Or maybe I should say, I have a global view like he does.
So we really only have a couple minutes left before we got to go to audience questions here. So
I'm not answering any questions. I want to be in the audience. I told you that.
That's right. Well, I'll answer questions because I'm super famous too. So no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, a couple things really quick. So first of all, thank you so much. Those great answers to all my questions. And like I said before before we sat down as well, I'm genuinely interested in like everything that I'm asking. One of the things was, to go back to one of the things, you've always kind of been on the cutting edge of like new ideas for pinball, such as like multi-ball and solid states, dual play fields. In fact, I know that Terminator 2 was supposed to be the first dot matrix game, but Gilligan's Island beat it out just because of
it needed it because it was kind of...
Yeah, right. So what were your thoughts? How did that even come up? Whose idea was that? And like, because obviously that was a big...
They asked me. They said, we think it could use the help. So, yes, okay.
So they had already had the technology, right. And...
we were already working with it.
Yeah, okay.
Terminator had a dot matrix in it, the white one. Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. I see. Yeah, that...
The dots guy, and all that.
Yeah, so what... I know you had, by the way, just a really quick side note on that. So I know technology-wise, you've always been really interested in technology, not so much into the Pinball 2000 stuff. Like the dot matrix era, when that came out, were you like, this is like the next big thing?
Oh, yeah, it definitely was a big thing. We got a big spike in sales, no question. I mean, it changed everything. It was a great way to communicate with the player, and players like to be communicated with. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the video screen is going to be awesome. We're doing some things that there's like a small fleet of people now. Like I would say we bought 5 people in the last year or year and a half to supplement our other artists, and so that is also the biggest bog. I mean, that's what slows us down, because there's so much work to do in that. anyway, the artists and the whole communication thing is going to be a lot more helpful to operate the game, and I think we're going to be doing some tutorial stuff for the player too. There's a lot of people in the world who don't know how to start a pinball machine. That's because the button is in a stupid place. You know, it's like pointed at your pocket, right? It's dumb. So on I guess the first game was Star Wars. We wanted to start at least a one-player game and put a green light, and it turns out people that have never touched a pinball machine can start them with these, hitting the button on the top. You can see it. And we still have to teach them how to add players. I don't know if they know that yet.
That's hilarious. I got to mention on the video screens now, my son and I were playing, because like I said, my son genuinely is actually a pretty good pinball player, and he's like 2, but we were at my parents' basement, which was one of the places I had talked about, and we were playing a bunch of machines there, and he like killed it on Tron, and he killed it on a couple more like just DMD games, and then he got, because that's all, DMD and like, you know, alphanumeric and whatever, that's all he's ever played on. So then we got to Guardians of the Galaxy or something, I think.
Yeah.
And he just sat there. He's like, "Look, a TV," and like just sat there, like he's playing the game, and I'm putting the dollars in. He's just sitting there. The ball just flies right down the middle. Right. I'm like, he doesn't. I'm like, dude, we have to fix that. I'm like, I'm just throwing money away here. So
yeah, that stuff is mostly for bystanders. I mean, you don't have time to look.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say.
You know, that was one idea for Star Wars. We wanted to put a screen down at, you know, where the ball was actually working, at least closer to your focus. I don't know if it was a good trade or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could have had another toy instead of it. But the display is pretty interesting sometimes. Yeah. And helpful, especially when you're killing TIE fighters.
Yeah. It's a great game.
Thanks.
Well, absolutely. Again, we're kind of somehow the time has just flown by here. So we have got to shift to, I guess, audience questions. So I hope you all have some good questions out there for you. Who's got some questions? Crickets. Somebody's got to have some questions. Okay. Yes, sir.
Is it true that you came up with the name Mortal Kombat?
Is it true that you came up with the name Mortal Kombat?
Yes, it is.
That's easy.
With a K. With a K.
What was the, why the K?
Why the K?
Walking Dead?
No, why the K in Mortal Kombat?
Speak to me.
Why the K in Mortal Kombat?
I don't know. It was just cool. Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is like, that's ancient. They were looking at combat with a C. Mortal Kombat is like, you know, I've read books, you know, where knights are fighting, they were locked in Mortal Kombat. I don't know. That's where it came from.
That's great. Awesome. Excellent. Yes, sir.
Was there ever anything that you had to fight for that you're really proud that you fought?
Yeah. I had to fight Gary for Doc Ock. You can only have 3 toys, he said. I go, Doc Ock? I mean, Gary, have you seen the movies? Like, a whole movie is about Doc Ock. We have to have Doc Ock. No, he was super angry at me. Like, he screamed and yelled. We were yelling at each other so much that everybody left the meeting. That's it. Just him and me. And I go, okay, fine. I'm going to go pack up my toolbox. I'm going back to California. So later on, he said, nah, stay. You can have it. But I don't know. You have to fight sometimes. You definitely do.
That's a good question.
Like right now, I have a new thing for my pinball machine that I found it, and I want to use it first. After that, they can have it. But I can see people are wanting to, but it'll work out fine. After the fact, anybody can use anything. You know, any designer, Barry Osler or Dennis Nordman or any game designer. If they build something and they're working on it, they get to do it first, and no one can steal it from them. Unless you're Ken Fidesz, then it's a dot matrix. Okay.
Excellent. Is there a fight that you lost that you wish you would won?
The king never loses. That's how it is.
Of course.
I remain annoying until I get what I want. No, that's not true. Have I lost? I haven't really. I'm trying to think about that. Yeah. People have insisted that I take out some things, but it's okay. Nothing serious.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it probably didn't happen that much with Williams, since your numbers were ridiculous with Williams as far as sales go. They're probably like, well, this guy, it probably didn't happen as much in Williams. Am I right?
What? No, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They pretty much let us do what we wanted to do. It's like, it is what we do. My life is pinball.
Yeah.
Most of the people there, their lives were pinball. Out playing, watching people, learning, playing in tournaments, playing at work, making pinball machines. So.
Yeah. Great question. Who else? Yes.
So you're the king of pinball. Did you ever think that you would be Reach Rockstar status to all of us pinball freaks?
No, it's not. It's not Rich Rockstar. It's just fun. It's fun to be the king. People call me the king. Larry DeMar started it, because I sold a lot of machines. I've sold more machines than anybody else ever has. But I've been at it a long time too. I cheated. I've been at it since '74, so I got a head start. And a lot of the other guys quit. Like not many games in years from Pat Lawler. So people are going to have a hard time catching up. I figure I can make 40 more games if I can live to 120.
Nice. Yeah.
Can you do the voice from No Fear?
Yeah. Crash and burn. It's time to meet your maker. I don't know if that's exactly right. It's just what I recall. It's a long time ago. Second place is the first loser.
Excellent. Who else? Yes, sir.
What can you say about what you're working on now?
What can you say about what you're working on now, or what's next?
I can say it's going to have 6 balls in it. It's boxy. It's kind of boxy. I'll say this. We are having a great time making this game. And it's like everyone wants to be part of it. It's a good feeling.
That's awesome.
Is it a box with a license or a box without a license?
What do you say?
He said, is it a box without a license or a box with a license?
Oh,
That's what I want to. That's
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you.
That was going to be my question too. If we ran out of questions. Anyway, that was a great question. Anybody else? Nobody.
Will they ever release the production numbers of the games from Stern?
Will they ever release the production numbers from Stern's games?
Probably not. When I get a little older, if I retire or something, I'll tell everyone.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Potentially unrelated to the question about the license or not, but regarding Black Knight, where did the inspiration come from for Magnus Save and the upper playfield and the ramps? I mean, there are so many firsts. Where did that come from?
I don't know. It's just people had been talking about making a multi-level pinball machine. Steve Kirk and I used to talk about it. Jim Petla from Bally. Everybody talked about it, but I just kind of did it. And Magnus Save was like, I don't know. It's the first time I ever used the magnet in a game. I put it there. And it worked, and it was fun, so. It's a crazy game.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of people online talk about, like a Steve Ritchie feel to a game. Like it's got good flow, and a lot of people, when they talk about it, they have that kind of idea that you create games with good flow, you have fun games to play, a lot of flow from one shot to another.
Your question is too long. If anybody else asks a question that long, they'll feel my blade. Okay, I'm just kidding. I am just kidding. Don't. No, please. I want to hear it.
Is that your personal preference, or is that more of an artistic design on your side? Like when you're approaching a game and you're thinking about designing something, are you scratching your own itch, or are you Or is there something more artistic in your head that you're trying to accomplish?
I'm not getting all of it, but I kind of understand it.
Okay, like when you're designing a game, since you're the master of flow, essentially, are you scratching your own itch, or is there like a artistic, like...
Absolutely. It's totally an art. I look for, I look for feeds, backs, and very smooth shots that are really satisfying to make. And a system, which is bizarre, but yeah, I mean, it's like I've used the upper right flipper in an orbit shot many times. It's like people are generally right-handed, but that's a favorite one, because if you can do like 4 or 5 in a row on Star Trek, I don't know, it's just a really good feeling. Yeah, it's definitely an art, if I make things that are clunky or there's too much clank is when the ball runs around and bangs into a bunch of metal parts, and some of it is inevitable, but there's things we can do to lessen it. You listen to a pinball rolling on the pinball playfield, and it's like, it's what you hear and what you feel through your hands deliver a kind of emotion. That's about it. So that's what I do, is I try to, make things as exciting as possible and satisfying.
Sir.
Of all the games you design, what's your favorite?
I don't have one really. It's just like I always like Firepower. Firepower was, a great project and a shared friendship, making it with Eugene Jarvis, and what else? I don't know. I'm not sure I have a favorite. I just move on, I'll tell you one that isn't my favorite, 24. That's not my favorite. I don't like that game. But, I didn't really finish it. Somebody else did. So it's very important, and they're finally getting the word now it's Stern, but really not. A game designer has to love what he's doing. He has to love the theme. He has to like it. He has to, that's when the best games happen. When you get to do, a project that you love or you admire. Some things you don't do even if you admire it. Like you don't do WWE. Sports games have always been a failure, always, in pinball. And it's like, there's a couple like World Cup soccer, but still, modest sales compared to other themes. But wrestling is especially bad. I mean, 97%, I think, of pinball players are men. And we don't want to look at guys in Speedos. I don't want to see that, ever. I don't want to see it. So it's like, also, others at the factory would say, so what do you think about this? And Lyman and I said, it sucks. You should avoid it like the plague. It's not good. Yeah, but they're a $6 billion business. But it just doesn't matter. It doesn't compute to pinball. Anyway.
So actually, kind of on the sort of a sidestep from that question as well, like, how do you regard your previous games? Are they like, because I can tell you, I'm a musician, and once you write music and you go out and gig and you play the song and you play the song and you play the song and you play the song, at some point you're like, all right, I'm tired of playing the song. Do you feel that way about, like, is there any connection with that with you, or is it completely different ballgame?
Not in the time frame when I develop a game. I don't get bored with it. I'm too busy fixing all the things. When I get a Whitewood up, I'll play it for like 2 days, 3 days, and then we will stop all development because I got to go back and fix all the things that don't work. Just stuff. As soon as I see it, I go fix it. And I don't ask anybody, would you please wire this up or that up? No, because I'm going to go back and make a whole nother wood, and Whitewood 2 will be better. And actually, sometimes Whitewood 2 is it, with some small tweaks. But often it's 3 Whitewoods to get the game, really playable and, say, addictive. It's such a bad word, addiction.
Yes, sir.
Do you play the competition's pins, and have you been impressed by any?
I'm not really a very good pinball player. I'm better than the average guys. I'm playing them every day, but I'm just,
From a designer perspective.
what does he say?
He said from a designer perspective, like from a designer's perspective.
What?
Do you want to elaborate?
Are you impressed with them? With the shots, the flow, the
Are you
ball banging around everywhere?
Basically, are you impressed with like competitive, like basically the shots and the flow, like competitive players? Was that?
Sure. I mean, it's like, I admire good pinball players. So there's a ton of them at Stern, too. It's like Keith Elwin is there, Zach Sharp, Lyman Sheets is a good player. Tim Sexton also. He just started working at Stern. And they're really, really good players, and it's good to watch them manipulate the game, and I can see where there might be holes in the rules that they can, anything, if there's a weakness, they will attack it. That's their thing. So they're very useful in terms of making a game design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the question was, are there any of the competitor manufacturers' pinball machines, are you impressed with any of those games out there?
Are you impressed with any of the competitor, basically the competitors' pinball machines out there? Is that in a nutshell? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm not, it's not patriotic. It's not Stern patriotic for me to comment on any game and say that. But yeah, I mean, I can say this. I kind of like The Big Lebowski. I think it's a nice piece, mostly because they stole all my shots.
Nice.
No, it is. It's nice and it's fun, and they didn't steal them all. Yeah, they have some nice stuff and original stuff, and it's pretty cool if they could build it. Making pinball machines. Only this guy in Texas is saying, "Oh, it's easy." What's his name? Robert Mueller. I've read his stuff. It's insane, absolutely insane. It's really hard to start a pinball company, to make it, to get all the 4,000 parts and people to put it together, and it's just a pain. Mm-hmm. I'm amazed that some companies are able to do it. Jersey Jack has taken a long time and tons of money to make it happen because it's very expensive to get started. Very.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we kind of hit that point, and it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. Remember, everybody, we'll go directly to the signing table after this, so you can get your autographs. I said basically I'm going to steal this from you and have you autograph it for me. So
no,
come on.
Anyway, I just want to say this. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm having fun. Nice to meet you guys.
Everybody, give it up for Steve Ritchie.